And thank you very much for your time. So, Coach, I think we can start with you and just, giving us an update on how. So I just want to mute everyone because I'm hearing stuff in the background. So, Coach, if we can start with you, you can then, touch on, how the COVID-19 lockdown has affected your plans as a coach, especially with the training camp that are supposed to happen in April for the SPAR Proteas.
Nusi, you've muted the coach.
I'm just trying to mute her now. Hi, Dorette, you're on mute.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry.
Yes, we can. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, so thank you for this opportunity. I think the lockdown is actually a problem for everyone in the sporting world. And we're lucky to be in the first year of our preparations for 2023 and not in the year before a World Cup. So we need to look at the positives as well. But being in the job for only from 1st of October, and only having a few months to work and then out is really not a great situation that we're in. But it's very important that we also realize that the international season is actually from around about August until Feb, and then players will go to their different franchises or TNL clubs or teams, and they will participate in those teams. And at this stage, we would have worked with players to get our group a little bit bigger. So for us, the April training camp was really very important because we selected a lot of players last year at the different tournaments, and we really need to now focus on a group of players that we can work with. And those players we couldn't select now at the training camp. So as soon as possible, we need to have a training camp and get a pool of players, around about 30 to 35 players that we can work with. The reason for me traveling to all the different provinces is just to get all the coaches and all the players, giving everyone the same opportunity and know what is important for us when we select players and what we are looking for. So it was a road show working not only with coaches but also with players, and the intensity. I focused a lot on intensity and speed and what we need on skill training from the players. But yeah, the lockdown is a crisis because we actually can only now work on high performance. We work closely with our sports scientists because we needed to change our high performance programs from pre-competition to actually back to a pre-season. Spoke to a lot of coaches in England and Australia. They went all back to pre-seasons until we know exactly what's going on for the rest of the year.
Sure, sounds quite hectic. And also, following that, we saw 3 weeks ago, Australian netball sent out an email saying that the quad series that are supposed to be taking place down there between South Africa, New Zealand, Australia had been cancelled or postponed or postponed indefinitely. Your thoughts on that, considering that this was probably one of the biggest tournaments that you're looking forward to for the year?
Yeah, that's a decision from INF, and I think it's very important that they look at the safety of players and it's traveling through the borders. And I think it's a problem with all the different sporting codes at this stage. So it's heartbreaking, but they also adapting on the ranking system because you need a certain amount of international games per year to stay in your rankings and just get enough points for your ranking system. So they adapted that as well. I don't know if anyone can actually say if we're going to have international games, even the Diamond Challenge. We're planning for that, and we're hoping that we're going to have the Diamond Challenge at the end of the year. And I think it's something that we really need for rankings as well. But we don't know, and it's not in our hands. It's in INF, the federation, the international federation's hands, and we need to obey to them.
So you've touched also on the world rankings. So we saw South Africa remaining fifth in the world, especially after the year that you had, or the few months that you had. So what are your thoughts and impressions on that as a head coach?
Yeah, rankings is the world rankings for me is a big problem, and I spoke to Plum a while ago also about the world rankings, and I know they had a roadshow now on the 20th. It's Saturday. We are all registered for a webinar that's they're just going to talk and answer questions about the world rankings and how they're doing it. I've got a big problem with that because you can't get any information on the formulas that they use. For us, I do understand that we will stay number 5, but the difference between us and the number 4 keeps the distance, the points. I think it's 20, between 20 and 24 points, and we can't get that. For the past 4 years, it didn't change, and for me that is a big problem because it's definitely a change in our performance in the past 4 years. And the teams ahead of us, or all teams playing, except for Jamaica, all of them do have a professional league, but all Jamaica players are playing in a professional league in either England, New Zealand or Australia. We've got 5 players playing professional, 3 semi-professional, but all those countries do have professional players and professional leagues, and it's very, very difficult to get closer to those teams if we can't beat them. And rankings is definitely a problem at this stage, in the sense of how to get closer, because for me, you can't get any information. If the new rankings came out, you can't get any information on where the previous stands or stats. So I will ask the question on Saturday, why can't we exactly know the formula on how they really work those points? Because for me, I know it's the margin you lose or win doesn't matter. So you need to win. You need to play enough games. You need to play against the teams better than you or ranked higher than you before you can change your world rankings. But I think there's a lot of questions to be asked during this webinar on Saturday.
Hopefully, when you're done, you'll then give us an update in terms of what was said from there. So maybe let's take it back to the 1st of October 2019. You then assumed your position as head coach with Coach Dumsan as your assistant, and a week later you then participated in Africa Netball Cup. How was that for you? And also winning the tournament. I think we just need to understand, getting into office and immediately hitting the ground running to go play against some of the toughest opponents in Africa.
I think what is important, me and Dumi both know Africa. We've coached different teams playing against Africa, and we knew it's not going to be easy. The moment you underestimate an Africa team, you're in trouble as a coach. So I think it was very important to just group the team because, for them it was new coaches coming in. And after having someone like Norma Plummer, it's a huge change, and you need to keep the players positive. And it was really great seeing how the players really adapted really well, and the energy in the team was really great with Africa. They adapted to new coaches, they adapted to new combinations, losing really key players during that first Africa Champs. It was Carla not available, Punza not available, Mareike retired, Erin retired. So it's the first line-up players that weren't there anymore. And, playing together for 4 years, they form a trust between the players, and to now suddenly trust a newcomer next to you, is always difficult for players, and you as coaches need to make sure that players trust the one in front and next to and behind them. And for us, Africa Champs was actually a big challenge in the sense of the night before our fixtures changed, where we would at time the morning to prepare for the Malawi game. Suddenly we played Lesotho, and all our video analysis were gone. So a lot of challenges at that stage, but I think just great teamwork and great captaincy from Bongi as well, because she just kept that team together, and I'm just glad to have her part of the team, because I think that was a big challenge for us, because Malawi, Uganda, they both are brilliant teams, and it's always difficult playing against Africa.
It's surprising that you had those challenges, but you still went 9 out of 9 and won the tournament for the first time in 10 years after 10-year absentia there. So you then quickly moved to the SPAR Championship, the SPAR Challenge rather, lost the series 2-1 against England. So what are some of the lessons that were taken out of that, also leading into the Vitality Nations Cup?
Yeah, I think with both the competitions, it's very important for me as coach to make sure that our depth, I think that is one of the biggest lessons I've learned actually throughout the past few years, being also with Norma. The depth in our country we really need to work on that, because we don't have enough players with international experience. And it's a challenge for not only me as a coach, but also for Net Africa, to make sure that more players in our country get exposure out there and play more against the best in the world. But it's difficult if it's always ranking games, because then you can't just give someone an opportunity. You need to win, and you need to go for the win every time you go on court. So for me, it's really important that we start giving our players, and especially our second team, our President's 12 team, more opportunity to play against international opponents, because it's different playing in a club league, a national league, than playing international level. And the pressure is just different, and you will never know if a player can cope at that level if you don't give them opportunity to play at that level. So my lessons learned was definitely that we don't have enough combinations in our country. We settled on certain combinations throughout the past 4 years, never changed it, always the same starting lineup. And if someone is not available or injured or retiring, then you're in trouble if you don't have depth in your country. So for me, that is important, that we need to grow the amount of players that's got international experience in our country.
Okay. So fingers crossed, we will be having the 2020 Diamond Challenge this year. The president spoke about it the last time we had this conference 2 weeks ago, that she's looking at the federation is looking at countries like Jamaica, Eswatini, as well as Uganda or Malawi. So how what are your thoughts and feelings around the Diamond Challenge this year?
Yeah, it will be great if we can play against those type of teams. I think it's great to play against players ranked higher than you, but also Uganda is so close to us. They just behind us, and they're a brilliant team. And I just think we need more and more international games, because that's the only way we can go forward. We need that exposure, and the more we can play, the better. So I hope we can again have a President's 12 also in the Diamonds Challenge, that we can have more than just 12 players participating, even if they're just playing as a team that can go up to the playoffs.
And I think what's on everyone's mind is the 2023 Netball World Cup that will be staged in South Africa. It would be injustice for us not to ask you, so what are your ambitions for 2023?
First, with 2023, I think it's very important to give every player an opportunity to be selected. So for us as coaches, we really need to give everyone the same opportunity on high performance level, on coaching, that if there's talent out there, we need to identify that talent. We don't have a lot of time. You don't just go out there and take a player and make her international player in a few months. It's really hard work. We need dedicated players, because you can give everything to players, but if you don't get their time, their effort, their everything, and they don't want to do it, it's also useless. So it's very important that we identify the right players to work forward to 2023. Make sure we've got enough players out there, give them all opportunity. And Lucy, we must remember, if we play against the best in the world, those players are professional players. They do only netball, day in, day out, every day. They just focus on their sport. And we only have a few players that's in that position. All the other players, it's really hard effort for them to have a full-time job, or they full-time students, and they still need to sacrifice really a lot of time to be the best that they can be. So it's very important that we make sure that we support them, not only physically with a high performance program like a sports science program, but also mentally and different ways, because it's not that they can do this full time. And the president said that we want to be professional or semi-professional in a year's time, and I really hope we can get a few players. Like England have about 50, 60 players that's professional, that is getting paid to just do netball, and they've got that group of players that they can select out of. So I wish that we can go into a situation where we will have a squad of players that can only focus on their netball, because it's really difficult to compete against the best in the world, and the only thing they are doing is just netball, and they only concentrate on netball. But we need to support our players and make sure that like a Bongi that's got a full-time job, but still she wake up very early in the morning to do her training, and she goes to practice in the evening. So I can name a lot of players that is really dedicated to give everything to the country, but it's not an easy road. And for me, for 2023, we want to be between the medals. We want to be in the top three with World Cup. We want to be there in 2023, but we need to start now. And COVID put us a little bit behind, because we could have done a lot of work now. But I think it's important that we need to put in on high performance. I think there's a big problem in our country when it comes to high performance, and everyone don't really understand high performance and what we need to do to be the best. You can't just train twice a week and think you're going to be the best in the world.
Sure. Thanks, Coach. So I'll open the floor up for questions. So we'll take 2 rounds of questions. I'll start with the first 4, and then the coach will then answer those questions, and then we'll go with the last 4. So by a show of hands, I would like to take a few questions. I see Busi, your hand is up. Hi, Busi.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Coach.
Hi, Busi.
Just 2 quick ones. First, earlier you spoke about NSA not being able to get hold of how the world rankings are set up, in terms of how do you guys get, like, what stats are used in order to get to the next place. The SPAR Proteas have been in the 5th position for a very long time. And what you just said, Ayla, do you think maybe it's a bit unfair in terms of how INF calculates the points for the rankings, in terms of just to look at how how the Proteas have been playing in the past 4 years. They've been really brilliant, but then it doesn't really make sense for them not to move up on the world rankings. Do you think maybe the INF is not being quite fair in how they calculate the points to get to the next point? I think in asking all of that, I forgot my second question. I'll come back later again. Thanks.
We see, I don't think, I'm not going to say they're unfair, and it's not that I can't get it from NSI. I think it's a problem throughout the world, because it's how INF is working with a statistician, and he's doing all the calculations and stuff, and they are giving us now Saturday opportunity to ask the questions, and hopefully we will get answers on that. I don't think we're supposed to be higher ranked, because we're not beating the best in the world on a regular basis. I just think that we should be closer points-wise. If you look at the points, we're around about 22 points behind, and that didn't change, and that's a problem for me. But you know, our scores changed against the best in the world, where we lost with 30, 40 goals. The past 4 years, it became 2 points here, 7 points there, drew. That won't change our rankings, because it's not the margin that you win or lose. It's all about you have to win or you have to lose. And it's all about the amount of games you're playing, and it's about who you're playing. You need to play teams higher ranked, and you need to beat them. It's no use you beat a Uganda or Malawi that's ranked lower. If they beat you, they will get a lot of points. So, yeah, it's a difficult situation. I would love to know how they work out this whole system. And I think, like Lucy said, after Saturday, we will give more feedback on what they are doing, because there's a lot of questions, especially after finishing 4th at the World Cup. But it didn't make any difference on our rankings, really. So I think there's a lot of questions to be asked, and hopefully we will get answers on Saturday.
Okay, thanks, Coach. Can I take Mark and Anchan in that order, please?
Coach, I'd like to speak about domestic netball, please, because I think there's been a lot of talk around COVID-19 and the impact that it's going to have on professional international events. And I just wonder, domestically, perhaps where there is not a huge amount of sponsorship and finance doing the rounds, if I think of club netball, school netball, etc., just from your perspective, I mean, what kind of impact is COVID-19 going to have on the domestic scene? Is that going to survive COVID-19 to allow you to continue to draw from a pool for your international players?
Yes, Mark, I think, and I agree with you, we put a lot of emphasis on professional netball, and we actually forget about schools and club netball. And, you know, for me, a lot of players use sport to actually just be normal, I want to say, because sometimes it's really hectic at work, it's hectic at home, and they fled to just be around people and just enjoy developing their skills. And I see a lot of players mentally struggling in this time, because they can't participate in their netball that they actually love. And for me, schools netball is really big, and I can see the influence on school kids, where they can't just get away and get on court and just all the frustrations that they've got, just to release that on the netball court. And skill-wise, we will definitely not benefit in this time, because they never get opportunity to develop skills, and skills start at school level. Clubs is a big problem for me in the country, because if you look at the past 10 years, our club system didn't grow, and that is a big problem for me. If it's not for universities and institutions that's got high performance systems in place, we really in trouble when it comes to netball, because our clubs, there's not enough clubs coming through in our system. So we need clubs to give us more players. And clubs need good coaches, and coaches need to develop players. And only you can have a lot of talent, but a good talented player need a good coach. So for me, it's something, sometimes we focus there at the top, and we forget about the base of where everything starts. And I think this is a huge problem for us at this stage, because if club netball disappear, I don't know where we're going to get our players.
Thanks, Coach. Anshin?
Yes, good afternoon from Cape Town. Listen, yeah, we're talking now in general, but what about this season? What do you hear from NSA exec? What are their plans? Obviously, August is around the corner, but I can't see how the SPAR Championships will be able to be held in beginning of August. And then after that, there's a lot of netball that has to be get some other place in the calendar. So and then obviously also, as you mentioned, Diamond Challenge at the end of the year. So how do you think everything will be fitted in?
Yeah, Anshin, that is a question I can't answer. Yes, I am speaking to NSA, and Blanche and I spoke yesterday again, asking when will they also don't know, because they under the rules of the government and INF, and if they don't approve certain things, nothing can happen. So I think everyone is planning, and the NSA is also planning and hoping these things can happen. As soon as we get the green light, we will start as soon as possible, and then give preference. We want to make sure that all our sponsors get what they should get from the sport. But yes, it's also important to look at our players and our athletes. You can't just start this a competition and they're not physically prepared. You need 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks to get ready to go on court and in competition. So it's all things that they need to look at. It's easy to say you start in August, but if we can't start practicing in small groups or on the netball court, hard surface, not getting a little bit of court time, we can't just go in competition, because you will definitely get injuries. So it's more than just getting the green light from government and INF. And like you said, the later, the less will happen, because you can't, it's the same players that's doing everything, and you won't be able to do everything in 2 months.
Thank you. Good morning, Coach. Good morning, everyone. Is it morning? Afternoon. Sorry.
Afternoon.
Yeah, it's afternoon. Afternoon, everyone. Coach, my question is almost similar to what Anshin asked, just to say, and you sort of answered it a little bit, that how long would it actually take a team to be competitively fit? And then last time we were here with the president, she made mention of the fact that netball was going to write to the Minister of Sport to be one of the sports, to be back in training and whatnot. Do you know if that letter has been written? And how soon would you like to have the team, get together, seeing that you do emphasize the fact that you would need to compete in the Diamond Challenge should it happen and whatnot? And according to you, as you mentioned, also second question, as you mentioned earlier, that you are at the beginning of preparation for 2023. Where would the team, or where is my English is not coming together, but where would the team supposedly be at this point, or should be at right now?
Okay, so Letaba, so what I wanted to say is I'm not I'm just the coach, I'm not the sports scientist, but we're working on periodization for the players. And if you listen to those people who really know, for them it's important that we won't go on into competition before 6 to 8 weeks. So for us, we're in work week 3. And if we can go into the next week with into small groups, at least playing a little bit more skill work, one-on-one, still not against defense or opponents, but we need to get on court. That's the most important thing. And where we should be at this stage, we're supposed to now at this stage have a group of at least 35 players, and then work with those players. They will be all in a league. The league was supposed to start already in, I think, May. So as coaches, we would have again started to identify new players. Maybe there's players we missed. And there's definitely a lot of players that's not available anymore from last year that was selected in SA squads that's not available this year and also not selected in TNL teams. So for us, it's important that we look at the different positions, look at TNL, see if there's new talent out there, and then start working with that squad of 30 to 35 players and make sure that we put them on a high performance program and monitor them on a daily basis.
Kuliso?
Yeah, thank you, Nusi. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Coach.
Okay.
I was just looking at the rankings now. I don't know if anyone has asked this question because my network has been disappointing, really. But if I'm looking at the rankings, New Zealand, we saw what happened with the rugby on the weekend. They've gone back to sport as it was normal before the whole pandemic happened. Australia, England, and Jamaica, their cricket teams are scheduled to be traveling over the next month or so. So that is obviously the top four, and then South Africa just comes after, which is your closest competition going into the 2023 World Cup here at home. When you're looking at where South Africa is at the moment and the possibility or the lack thereof of actually playing sport, contact sport for the next, 40, 50 days, are you able to see, or are you able to tell us just how much you're going to be left behind in as far as competition with those top four nations is concerned? Thank you.
Yes, you're right. INF will decide when international games will start and not NSA. So our international body will decide when traveling will be able to start. But the difference at the moment between those four countries that you mentioned above us, ranked above us, they all have professional leagues running at this stage. Like we all know, the Suncorps will start on the 1st of August. The New Zealand netball is already on court, busy, and their competition is starting also now soon. And most of the Jamaican players are playing in either New Zealand or Australia. So they all playing in a national professional league at this stage, and we only have 5 players that from South Africa that will be in a national league. That is the players playing in Australia. So that it's so important that the TNL must happen, because we even tried, and I spoke to the president, and she's also trying to bring in those players that missed out in England to play in the TNL here, because we can't afford Casey, Zanele Vimbela not to play netball this year. And because their netball league is totally stopped in England. So it's so important that we really need the TNL and the league running in South Africa, because it's the only netball we're going to get. And if we're not playing netball, we will be behind, and we will never catch up with those teams that's ranked above us, that's got a professional league running.
Thanks, Coach. Bruce?
Hi, Dot. How's it?
Hi, Brucey. Good and you?
Fine, thank you. I think it's just a question I'd like to throw at you and Nusi. Nusi, if you can maybe answer this. Where are we with netball returning? Because tennis is in disarray. There's confusion. Golf obviously was allowed, and I saw netball was one of the sports that they allowed back, according to the press release. But where are we concerning netball? Because I think it's very important for you as the coach, and obviously with your plans. I just need to know the stages. It just would be interesting.
Do you want to go for a Dot, or should I go?
I just know what I read in social media and in the news.
Okay, so we had a meeting this morning, Bruce. So where we are right now is that NSA will be then sending out an email to all the head of the provinces to start with the testing that should be happening the next week or so, so that all the teams get tested, and then the players will then go into isolation or quarantine for 14 days before they could start with group trainings. So as we stand, so the tests should be done. I think by beginning of next week. And then once the tests have been done, then the players can then start resume with training. And then the events calendar has been revised as well. So we're looking at starting to play netball unofficially around August.
Okay, so basically you're saying that a team would be tested, and then after they've been in isolation and it's all been clear that they all COVID-free, they can train as a team. For instance, the Baobabs, or
so they'll then start group trainings, yes, after the tests have been done.
Now, isn't that also for the SPAR Proteas, Dot?
Yes, I did speak to Blanche yesterday, and so I think what we're all waiting for is a letter of the protocol that we need to follow on how training what training will be allowed and how they will start with their training. I think they focus on the league teams at this stage because we want the TNL to start in August, and if those players aren't ready on court, like I said, physically, we need to get on court with those players, and that is the players also attending my training camps. So as soon as we get the protocol that is coming from Netball South Africa, because they received now the go-ahead from the minister, then they released a letter like that previously, but now it changed because of the level that we're in. But now, when can we start with the 3-3 training and training in small groups, and when can teams start training? But we will definitely go into a squad training as soon as possible, because for Netball South Africa, it's important to make sure that we start getting that group together. So I will definitely work on a training camp as soon as possible. But I also realize that it's the safety of the players that's now important, and that we need to get the professional league going, because we need game time at this stage.
Thanks, okay, Coach. And then Nusi, just the last question. Dot, obviously, filling Norma Plummer's shoes was not an easy task. I mean, she's obviously, a coach of good international stature for many years. But has she been helpful to you in your new role? And do you think that with her having such a big name internationally and having so many connections, is that something that you think is important for you as your success going forward? And are you doing anything about maybe using her or using yourself, because you've also got your own connections, to now link in with the coaches and the teams around the world that are in our category to just help you and your players?
Yes, Bruce, I think it's something I've learned from Plum, that you need to be connected. It's very important. She's got a lot of friends throughout the world, and she's a great coach. For me, it's important that at this stage, I try to make sure that I connect with the players that's playing in England and in Australia, with their coaches now first, that we know exactly what they are doing with their sports scientists. Christy is working closely with their analysts, So for me, it's really important to just at this stage make sure that we are on board. We're doing, we're not getting behind because of what they are doing and what we are doing. So yes, and it's important to get our players also opportunities to play in the leagues in England and New Zealand and Australia. So it's important to have that connections. Plum is a great person. She was in a difficult situation just after my appointment. She also decided to mentor the England. So she's in a difficult situation to help us now as coaches. So we were a little bit left behind in that sense, because you can't, she's there with the England team in England clothes suddenly and not anymore in the South African clothes. So it's difficult for her, from us to just go to her and ask her a few things. But she's always there to help us, and the phone call away, and even Nick. So for me, that communication is very important to stay. I always say you need to stay updated with the things running now, because if you're going to become, if you're going to get behind, you're going to stay behind. So it's very important to connect with the players and the people in England, in Australia, in New Zealand. So yeah, that's a thing that I think, and also attending a lot of webinars and make sure that you keep up to date with everything.
Thanks, Coach. I'll take Mark and then Letabo afterwards. Mark?
Coach, just to follow up on the importance of domestic netball, June is Youth Month, and we will be celebrating the youth of South Africa all month long. I would like to know, just from your perspective, why is it so crucial that young South Africans pick up netball? What does it offer them, and why is the sport so reliant on young South Africans choosing it as a sport to go forward? What would you say to young South Africans that would consider whether or not they should pick up netball?
Yeah, I think that is where our netball start, is with our young players. And like I said, those players are so passionate, and they just love the game. And there's a lot of role models now in South Africa that people are related to, and they want to be the same as a Bongi Msomi. They want to also become a Lebanese sportgitter. So for me out there, we really need to protect those young players. We really need to give them opportunities, and we need to see them, because at this stage it's worrying for me, because a lot of girls just want to go out there and sport and netball teach you much more than just the game. It's a part where they can socialize. They learn how, what discipline is. They learn what time management is. They belong to someone and a group of people. So for me out there, the young players are crucial. They are our future, and we need to protect them, and we need to give them opportunities. We shouldn't forget about them. They are the future of netball in South Africa, and the more opportunities we can give to them, and give them opportunity to develop skills and make sure they love the game, because it's all about loving the game, loving the thing that you're doing, because if you love what you're doing, you will keep doing it. So we need to give opportunities to these kids, and we shouldn't forget about them, because they are our future. And my voice out there is, let's look at our youngsters. Let's protect them. Let's give them opportunity, because sometimes we focus on elite groups and we forget about where actually we need to start. And development starts with our young players. We need to give them opportunity, and we need to go out there and work with them, because that is our future.
Thanks, Coach. Letabo?
Coach, I have two questions. One, how do you know, obviously, I don't know if you would know, that the players are actually following what you are requesting right now, especially, the ones in the Proteas? Do you have so much trust that you can actually know that whatever that you're giving them programs, they're actually following? And then the second one, almost related to what Bruce asked around Norma, to say that, did the COVID-19 also put a spanner in the things? Obviously, there would be was there some sort of expectation for you to sort of prove yourself after what Norma did with the team and her leaving as well?
Okay, first thing, you will never know as a coach if they are training or not. I think for the Protea players, the 12 players that's currently in the squad, it's easy because we monitor them on the smarter base, and our sports scientists and us as coaches can go on a daily schedule to see what they're doing and what they're not doing. But again, people can decide to train or not to train. I think for our players that really knows that how important training is and what it takes to play international level, they will train. And I wish that we can get that next level of players with that same dedication, because it's, like I said, you can't decide today I'm not going to train. Yes, maybe tomorrow I will train. To become the best in this country and represent your country in international level, you really need to be disciplined on your training. We will see when we go into our first training camp, we will do testing. We will be able to see who trained and who didn't. And that's why it's so important for me that all the girls or players that is invited to the training camp gets the same program, gets the same opportunity to train on a high performance level, that they can't say, but I didn't have a program, I didn't have this. The program is also something that you can do without any equipment. So it's a program for everyone out there. So for me, I know that everyone won't train, but that will just show if a player is really hungry to play at that level, and they really want to put in the effort to play at a high level. It's today's netball. We're not professional, but we need to act like professionals.
Maybe we
And
begin
then
my
expectation. I'm standing in my own feet, and I'm not the same coach as Norma. And I think, that is very important. That
sorry, coach.
Sorry.
Lucy, can you get somebody to switch off their mics, because we're unable to hear the coach?
I've done that
there's
already.
Someone's mic which is on. Thank you.
Your mic.
I've done that already. It's cool.
Okay.
Sorry, coach.
Norma is a great coach, but me and Dumi needs to stand in our own shoes, and we need to now take the responsibility to take this team to the next level. You, as a coach, you have a lot of mentors throughout your life, and you learn from a lot of coaches, and you learn from a lot of people what to do and what not to do. And I've learned a lot from Norma, but I don't have any expectations because Norma did certain things that I have to do something else. I want the best for the country, and I want the best for the team. And I think that we should set our own goals and work towards those goals, because for me, it's really important that what we've learned from Norma, to take it further and move forward on that, and not just stay behind and want to stay on the same level that Norma left us. For me, it's important to grow. For me, it's important to take the team forward, and we need to now start focusing on 2023, and we can't look back the whole time. So yes, it's important to learn from people, but now it's time for me to believe in myself and in Dumi, and we need to take this team, and they need to believe in us as coaches to take them to the next level.
Thanks, coach. Rachel. Rachel? Oh.
Oh, sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Just a question, Dorette. We've seen how, the SPAR Proteas have always managed to physically match up with the best teams in the world, and that also goes for the skills as well. But for some reason, it's been an issue that's been circling around the team for quite some time. And that is how we've struggled with the mental pressures of Test netball. We've managed to take the lead against the best teams in the world, but we've always struggled to keep that lead. I'm sure it's a conversation you've had with the team, with your assistant coach. How are you likely going to fix the issue of just starting strong and also finishing strong constantly?
Hi, Rachel. Yes, I think and I believe, I've coached the Northwest University at some stage, and I don't know who can remember that we always lost with that 1 or 2 points and goals. And it's a change that a player needs to make to decide that we are good enough to beat them. And the more we're going to play at international level, and the more we're going to play against the best in the world, and that is why it's so important for me that even if it's only 5 players that's playing in the Australian League, they play against the best of Jamaica, the best of England, the best of New Zealand and Australia in that Suncorps League. So the more they play against the best, they start believing that I can beat this girl on attack. I can be better than her. So the more we play international level, the more players will start believing in themselves. And to take that, it's just to take that loss, because it's a centre pass or 2 that we're losing. We saw that in our test series against England and with our last game in the Vitality series. And that is something that is very important. And I said that to the coaches in the provinces that I already visited now for the TNL as well, because possession for me is so, so important. And sometimes in our country, it's as if it's fine if a shooter misses a goal or I just give a bad pass, the defense will turn it. And that mentality needs to change in our country. We need to protect the ball. We need to make the right decisions. And how you train and how you play in a normal national league will depend what you're going to do in an international game. You can't expect someone to have 6-7 bad passes in a game, and they won't do that in an international game. The pressure is then more. And we need to start focusing on that type of stats to make sure our players are ready and they mentally taking responsibility for the ball in hand as well. Because I think it's a process. It's not just going to happen and you're going to believe that you're good enough. But the moment we're going to have a culture where we have a winning culture, that we're good enough and we believe in each other, I think then those wins will come through. And it's important that our players, and it's something for me, I saw it now a lot being in at the Vitality. Players shouldn't read social media, because people will say really nasty things on social media. This player must rather retire, or that player. And that will play a mental and will have a mental influence on players. So it's a culture that you need to develop with your players, that you actually teach them how to be mentally tough in this situation. Because I can promise you, people can really be rude. And if you're going to get yourself influenced by that, your game will definitely not be good the next day. So it's a lot of things that we need to work on. And I think as a coach, I also think that it's very important that on a high performance level, we get the sports scientists to come in and help our players. We did have one working with us during the Africa Champs, but I think it's something that Netball South Africa will bring in, and players that needs that little bit of help to prepare mentally, get that opportunity.
Coach, thank you very much for your time. We truly appreciate it. Are there any other questions before we close it off? Going once, going twice. Yes, Nzago, Letabo.
Yes, I wanted to, Coach, how many of the provinces have you visited so far? And
I've visited the KZN. I visited Western Cape, visited Free State. I visited Eastern Cape. I went to Northern Cape's trials and Limpopo's trials, but I haven't visited them like I will want to see the coaches and the players. So I still need to do Limpopo, Northern Cape, and Northwest. In Gauteng, I did 2 of my training camps in Soweto and in Pretoria, but I still need to do 1 in Joburg.
Okay, thanks, Coach. Thanks, everyone. We'll be sending this video and the audio out to you shortly so that you can use for your respective bulletins. Please be on the lookout. I'll be sending another email also in the week with regards to who our next guest will be in the next 2 weeks or so. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you,
Thank
Nisi.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.